Welcome to the New School of Marketing podcast, the place for smart, simple strategies that will amplify your business results. Sharing practical tips, insider knowledge, and actionable advice because marketing is something that every business owner can do. Now, let's get started. Introducing your host, Bianca McKenzie, mum, lover of snow sports, camping, horse riding, and in-demand launch strategist and Facebook advertising knowledge bank.
Welcome to the New School of Marketing podcast. I am Bianca McKenzie, and today I am talking about all things content with Sandra Muller. Sandra is an online content strategist, SEO copywriter, and writing coach. She specializes in creating smart, strategic, evidence-based content that helps a brand to capture and serve their people well. She also trains people to improve their writing skills and build their capacity to create smarter, more strategic content. And a little weird fact about Sandra, which is something I ask all of my guests, is that Sandra hates salad and fruit salad. Oh my gosh, who doesn't love fruit? Anyway.
Me!
I find that really strange because we love fruit. Anyway, it's all about the content, right? Not about the fruit. So
that's right.
I really want to know a little bit more. I've known you for a little while, Sandra, and I know that you are all about smart content. Can you explain what you mean by smart content? What is smart content?
Okay, smart content is evidence-based strategic content that always starts with the user's goal in mind and where it marries that user goal with business goals. So evidence-based content is content that draws on data, analytics, information, and research to make sure that you really, truly understand what your audience needs.
I love that.
Yeah, and Bianca, as someone who works in the marketing industry, you'll have been hammered over the head your whole career about user needs and putting that first. And so the same principle applies to content.
Yeah. Well, it's really important to know who your audience is. So, yeah.
And it's not just knowing who they are, but it's going deeper into those levels to find out what they need, what they want, what their problems are, and so you can present them with a solution.
That sounds really good. So you know how everyone always talks about content is king, and can't you just write something?
Well, you can, but it's not necessarily going to get you the traction that you want. Yeah. So you'll always get better results if you're smart and strategic about what you're writing.
Yeah.
So if you're using that evidence that you gather to figure out who that target audience is, what they want to know, how they're best going to receive that information, you're in a much better position to create content that's really going to connect and engage with your target market.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And the days of, just putting up a blog that just for the sake of blogging, that is totally over. So how does someone start with smart content? How can I and how can my listeners create smarter content for their businesses?
Yeah, sure. And these principles that I'm going to talk about apply whether you're creating short, snappy content for a Facebook ad or a blog post or a web page that's actually going to guide a user to do and complete a specific task. It's all the same. It doesn't matter what the format of the content is. It should always start with this evidence base. Yep. So there are things that you can do, and it's just desktop research. I'm not talking about spending thousands of dollars going out into the field and conducting in-depth qualitative interviews with your target market. This is bringing it back to the desktop and what you can do just at your desk on any day of the week. So you can do things like keyword research. And while people think that keyword research is really important from an SEO perspective to draw users in from search engine results, I like to do keyword research on anything that I'm writing because it helps me understand the language that people are using when they're searching for the thing, when they're talking about the thing that I'm writing about. So it can give you a useful perspective and a different alternative words that you can use. So you're finding ways that are going to connect with the person looking for the thing. So that's one way through keyword research. And there are free tools out there. You don't necessarily have to pay to do keyword research. Uber Suggest is one tool, or Ask the Public is another, where you can type in your keyword and then you'll get a range of a lot of questions that people are asking about that particular topic. So you can see the way that people frame things, the way they think about it. It can be really helpful.
That sounds really clever.
Yeah. You can look at Google's search trends to find out when people are talking about stuff. So if there's a particular seasonality involved in it, if it's a rising trend, a dropping trend, that might be important part of your content as well. Google Analytics is an amazing source of information.
Yeah.
And filtering through that data can tell you a lot and give you a real story about how people are interacting with your website. And I'm not that experienced with Facebook ads, but I'm sure any of these social platforms and their tools, and especially their advertising tools, will give you those sort of metrics that can help you make informed decisions about your campaigns. So with Google Analytics, you can figure out where people are dropping off from your website. But then you have to drill into that a little bit further, because you might have a page that's actually got resources directing people to other websites, other social media platforms, etc. So if people are leaving your website at that point, that's actually a good thing, because the page is serving that user need to direct people where they need to go. But if it's kind of a page that's somewhere in the middle of your sales process, for example, and everybody's leaving at this point, then you should be scratching your head and trying to figure out what's on that page.
Yeah, why are they leaving? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And understanding which pages are getting the most amount of traffic and how long people are staying on those pages. Look, there's so many metrics in there that can help paint that bigger picture and that bigger, broader understanding of your market.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really good. I love Google Search Console as well as another tool, because it's quite different from Google Analytics, which is telling you about the activity on your website. But Google Search Console is more about the activity that brings people to your website via Google. So it will tell you how which keywords you're ranking for on which pages, what the click-through rate is, where your average position is in Google as well. So this is really important data for understanding how your website content is currently working for you.
Yeah.
Or not, as the case may be.
That's super clever. That's really good. Thank you. So everyone who's listening, start creating smarter content for your business by starting with research, and you can do that just at your desk. You don't even have to leave anywhere or go anywhere for it. So that's really good. So what would be your top tips for creating like good and engaging content so that people are not leaving, halfway through the sales process?
Yeah. Okay. So it's always back to that user goal again. So it's always keeping that top of mind. What does the user want to get out of this content? Because too many organizations and too many people go into it with what they want to say rather than what people want to hear. So if you flip that around, and so rather having your goal of the page up the top, you're looking at it, what does the user want? What do they need? And you create your content around that, you're going to have a much better chance of creating content that engages your reader. I'm a big advocate for plain English, and plain English isn't. Some people think that plain English is content that's written in a condescending way. It's talking down to people. It's really pared back and simple and basic. But no, actually, it's not. Plain English is just really smart content. it's the way that you structure the information. It's because we know that people scan. We know people's behaviour on web pages is to scan the page, not to read it line by line. People are looking for that information that they're going to pull away, the thing that they want to know about. And they want to do it as quickly as possible. So we have to make sure that we're structuring our content in a way that enables people to scan and digest the content.
Yeah.
Fast. Yeah, fast way. And we can use that then to think smartly about the way we present our content. And journalists use this model in their reporting. So they think of an upside down triangle where the wide base is up the top, kind of like a funnel, and then the pointy bit is at the bottom. So the most important information you want to put up the top of your page, because the chance of people scrolling beyond about 20% of your content gets lower and lower and lower as your content it goes further on the page. So you want to make sure that you've got that key information up top, that key information that's going to capture the reader, and that's going to let them know that this page is actually going to solve your problem, whatever problem that you have. And then as the page goes further on, then there's kind of a diminishing importance of the content that you're sharing. So keep that good information up the top. Use lots of headings throughout your content. That helps people scan as well. And it also sends good signals to search engine about what your content is about. So don't just plonk headings in willy-nilly. You need to carefully craft them.
Think about them first.
Yeah. So that if somebody was just reading the headings on your page, could they figure out what it was all about? Could they possibly even get the answer to a question that they have? Just through your headings alone.
That's super clever.
Yeah. Plain English is also,
I really love the triangle thing, the having the most important information at the top. And what I was just thinking is that a lot of people don't want to give everything away. They want to have that mystery at the start. But I could totally see that having the most important information at the top, where you are showing or telling people that you are going to solve their problem, we need to put that up the top. Otherwise, we might lose them. So, totally. I love that, the triangle, the upside-down triangle. I love that. Thank you.
Don't leave your ta-da moment for the final paragraph.
Yeah, because it might not get there.
Yeah. Bianca, I think people like to do that right in that particular style because it's something that we were taught at school, especially when it came to creative writing, that we would have a little surprise and a bit of intrigue and the plot twist revealed at the end. But we don't want to do that with our online content, especially when we're trying to create something that's smart and engaging and serving a purpose for our business as well as for the user. Yeah, that's a big no-no.
Mm-hmm. Makes total sense. And in terms of in terms of plain English, what I'm sort of getting from that is that it's conversational. It's ditching all of the things that we've been sort of taught, like using really difficult language and like fancy words to impress. I had to really make sure that I didn't take any of that out of my corporate job into my business, because it's so different from how we communicate and write. So it's conversational.
It's conversational, but also very neat and tidy, because when we speak, even as I'm doing now, I'm just rambling from one sentence to the next without great thought and structure to what I'm saying. I write far better than I speak. But it's about having a tone, I suppose, that suits your brand. And there's not very many brands in the world that are going to want to seem like they're stuck up, conceited, aloof, unapproachable. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of people do communicate, because that's what they learnt through academic kind of style of writing or essay writing, really stuffy, bureaucratic type language. But there are some really simple fixes for this. And when I work with people and I share with them some ways that they can simplify their content, they're always amazed at how easy it really is. And it's doing things like shortening sentences. We must be concise. The longer a sentence is, the more difficult it is to read.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And so it makes content more dense. And so having a lot of white space around text, having short paragraphs where you're just containing one idea per paragraph, not 10 sentences and 10 different ideas in the one paragraph, that can be really hard to read. And we can break long sentences up using things like bullet lists, which work really well online. And they're also a great way to slow the reader's eye if they are in that scanning mode and draw their attention to the bullet list, because all of a sudden, bang, you've got something on the screen that looks different to the rest of the content. And it just naturally draws the eye there. Another key part of plain English writing is using what's called the active voice. Instead of the passive voice, which is the opposite. So to give you an example, newspapers do this all the time, and it's a real bugbear of mine, but you'll see something that's like, woman murdered by husband.
Mm-hmm.
So that's using the passive voice, and where you have the woman who's the subject of the sentence, and she's having something done to her, and kind of like her husband is just a secondary character in this sentence. But really, it should be flipped around, and it should be man murders wife.
Yeah.
It puts the onus and the responsibility onto the person who was doing the action, not the person who was having the action done to them. And bureaucrats, government love to hide their responsibility, shirk it behind this passive voice.
Yep.
So you'll always see it as the infringement notice was issued by the parking inspector, not the parking inspector issued the infringement notice.
Yeah. It's fascinating that you're giving all these examples, because it's kind of how I learned to write in my job, which now makes me cringe.
Yes. So that's really, I find that to be really bureaucratic language, is when people hide behind the passive voice. It's okay to have some instances of passive voice in there, especially when you can't identify exactly who the subject is in that sentence. But but for the most part, if you can flip it around, that's all you have to do, is you have to flip the subject or the object of the sentence.
And that's what we want in our business. We don't want to be bureaucratic. Most of us have, tried to, escape exactly that. So let's flip it around. So all right, so we've done our research and we've kind of got in our head what we want to do. I always struggle with getting started. So do you have any tools or tips or tricks, some of your favorite tools of what do you start in? What do you use? Where do you go?
Okay. Well, tools aside for the moment, I always start with an outline process when I'm feeling a little bit stuck. And it really is just a brain dump of just jotting down ideas, putting them into bullet lists, and then going back over them, and I'll figure out headings that I can use. And then I've got a bunch of bullet points underneath each heading that I can then expand on. And by doing this, I find that I can knock out a 1,000-word blog post in just over an hour. I type pretty quickly, but if I've got a structure in place and I've done that initial brain dump, and I find it really helpful to leave it for at least overnight, so I could kind of percolate on it a little bit. And what happens in the background is our subconscious mind is doing the heavy lifting for us. And so when I come to it the next day, it's almost like my brain has already written the piece and I'm just transcribing it. I find that really helpful. And I know a lot of other people do too. So if you're not outlining, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a sales copy page or whether it's a blog post or ad copy.
Mm-hmm.
If you just spend some time, bang, bash it all out.
And then walk
Get
away.
it on paper.
And then,
Walk away, leave it, come back to it after it's percolated, and you'll find the bits of gold in there, and you'll just make some connections that you probably wouldn't have made if you were forced to churn that out in the next 30 minutes, say.
I love that. My percolation tends to happen at 4 a.m. In the morning when I wake up. Not ideal, but I love that. I outline the process and then do your brain dump, walk away, percolate, and then you get writing. So what do you use to write in? What's your favorite tool?
Yeah, when I'm working on a large project, so say something that's got 20 pages or more, and it's a really collaborative effort, and I might have a writing team that I'm working with. So I've got some writers on board and we're all working on different sections of a big website project. And then we've also got the client who needs to be looped in at different points along the way to provide their feedback and to ultimately approve the content. My preference for that, and as you can imagine, working on a website that's got 100 or more pages, if we were to be sending drafts back and forth as Word documents, and so you would have, the final version going back and forth, it would be an absolute nightmare, and it would also add a considerable load, a project management load fee for our client of maybe 10 to 20% of a project, I think, if we were doing it that way. So what do I do instead? I use a tool called Gather Content, which is especially for distributed authoring teams, approvals. You can set up workflow through it. So each step of the way, you can just mark it off and then it goes to the next person along the chain. So from drafting it or even creating briefs and validating those briefs with the client, and then from a writer to draft it through to editing process, through to getting a subject matter expert involved to review the content for you to make sure that it's technically accurate.
Yep.
And then through to going whatever management levels, or whether it's legal teams or just a senior figure within an organization that needs to approve the content, it can step you all the way through that, and you've just got one draft. You've just got it manages revisions, it contains comments. You can create templates that match wireframes, so you know where all the bits of information are going to end up on the final site. So it's an absolute gem of a tool. It is a bit expensive. So probably about 150 Australian dollars a month for that. But my goodness, it pays for itself.
Well, if you're working with a team and it's a really, really big project, then definitely. So, if it's just one person needing to do like a small thing, like a website page for themselves or a blog post for themselves, it doesn't need to be that.
No, it doesn't. It's still my preference, even for small web projects, because I don't like version control. And also, if you're doing a 10, 20 page website, you don't necessarily want to send the full, what's called a copy deck, which is all the pages, all the content, to a subject matter expert who needs to review the stuff that's on page 74.
Oh, yes. No.
Yeah. So as an alternative, I will use Google Docs if a client is amenable to that, because that's sort of a step above Word in terms of collaborative and maintaining a single version and having like a comment history, etc. in it. But otherwise, I just edit directly and write in for my own stuff, that is, just directly into WordPress for copy. Even sales pages I'll write directly into WordPress. Yeah, because I kind of like to see
what it looks like. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Because
I'm very much about the structure of a page. Like, for me, the copy is the last thing I ever think about. It really is. And which might sound odd coming from a copywriter, but it's definitely the last thing I'm thinking about.
Yeah, so it's all about the structure. Oh, it totally makes sense. But it's fascinating because Yeah, I write my blog posts in Google Docs, but it's probably more from, well, I used to write it straight into WordPress, but then I hired a VA and it was much easier to do it in Google Docs and get my VA to put it all inside of WordPress. So fascinating. But it doesn't need to be big. But I love that there are so many tools out there that help collaboration.
Yes.
Sorry.
And then there's also distraction-free tools that you can get. There's a lot of them, like Air Stories, one where you can just write on a white screen. There's nothing around it. It's just white.
Just to write. I might need to get onto that because I have plans to write a book, but distractions. So that's a good one.
Yep.
So many good tools out there, really. I know that there's grammar tools and Hemingway apps and things like that can help with writing.
They are fantastic support tools, and I used to be a Grammarly girl, but I've since switched to Pro Writing Aid, which I like a lot more. It's also a little bit cheaper. Oh, actually, it's a fair bit cheaper than Grammarly. But what I like about it, and something like Hemingway, for example, is that it will highlight for you where you're using passive voice and where your long sentences are and where you're using redundant words that you can cut out. That was just a redundant sentence just then.
I love that. I really love that. So coming from like a non-English speaking background, it took me a while to get into writing and really, just pressing publish. And I know that a lot of people say, just hit the publish button. So it took me a little bit of time to sort of build that confidence to start writing. What would you say to anyone like who's in business, who's holding themselves back? Like, how can they build confidence to publish their work, to start writing and publishing?
Yeah. Well, if you weren't hesitant about publishing your work, then especially if you're new to putting your voice out there, then I think you would probably be a psychopath. I think it's still part of human nature, is this fear of putting yourself out there. And I think you have to drill down into the reasons why, and whether it's because you're scared of attracting trolls or someone pointing out mistakes and feeling foolish. But I always tell people, especially when they're new and they don't have a big following, that no one's reading your stuff anyway, so it doesn't matter. You're just publishing to an empty stadium, so nobody cares.
Yeah,
nobody cares. That's like the first thing, is just to have that realization that it's not like you're going to publish a blog post and 10,000 people are going to view it tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's just not going to happen. So that can sort of make people feel a little less uncomfortable about hitting the publish button.
Yeah.
But if you run your content through some of these tools, like a visible thread is another one, which is an absolute favorite of mine, because it also gives you readability scores of your content. So whether someone who is about 12 or 14 years old could easily understand the information. This all comes back to plain English as well. Mm-hmm. And so it's not about dumbing down the content. It's just making sure that you're not doing the things that make your content overly complicated.
Yeah.
Using a tool like Grammarly Pro Writing Aid for spelling and grammar checks, and then using a tool like Hemingway app or Visible Thread to check your readability, to check how much or how many instances of passive voice you're using and where you could perhaps change that, and also identifying those long sentences that you could make much snappier.
Yeah, shortening the sentences. I love it. To be honest, I haven't used any of these things. I kind of got over my fear of pressing publish a while ago and just went, just do it. Like you said, nobody's reading it anyway, and practice makes perfect. The more you write, the better you get. That's what I've found, is that the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it as well. So
Yes,
And
that's right. Absolutely.
I
Yep.
love all the tips that you've given us in terms of writing smarter content, because when you think about smart content, you automatically go, oh, it needs to be like super fancy and like difficult words. No, your version of smart content is plain English and readability and structuring it in a way that makes
Yes.
it easy for people to digest and to read. And I seriously love that is what smart content is. So yeah, thank
Yeah,
you
well,
for
it is
that.
for me.
Oh no, it
That's
makes
all.
total sense, and at least to me, it makes total sense as well. Smart content is content that people can read. Don't make it difficult.
Yeah. And it's based on evidence and has that user need at its core.
Yep, I love that. It's all about the user. It's all about the end person reading that piece.
Mm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
love it. Thank you. All right, well, let's do some wrap up questions. What are you curious about right now?
Oh, I'm curious about online learning and being able to teach people and help people become better writers. So I'm really curious about experimenting with different ways to do that.
I love it. People can be
Yeah.
better writers. And they don't have to have a business, they don't have to be a writer.
No,
Everyone can learn how to be a better writer.
absolutely. And for me, I'm learning all the time. All the time. There's just no end to it. And that's what I kind of love about it too. There's always ways to improve. There's always new things to learn, and with online content, I'm always learning about new concepts. So something that I'm quite curious about is the future of how content will be created in a kind of very different way now. Like where we're just creating micro pieces of content that are then cobbled together, and whether this is deliberately cobbled together or whether it's done through some kind of AI technology remains to be seen. But it's kind of
Now I'm curious too.
it's and so it's the idea is that you'd have reusable components that are used right across a website. So wherever a brand is referencing its environmental principles, for example, instead of having that piece of content written on 50 different pages in slightly different ways, it's written once, and that one piece of content, that one message is distributed and shared every time you reference it. That kind of thing.
Clever. I love it.
It blows my mind a bit. So I'm still coming to grips with it and being able to articulate it well. Because I can't do that right now because I don't understand it enough. I'll get there.
We'll see what the future of content brings us, really.
Mm.
All right, last question. If you had an extra $1,000 in your marketing budget, what would you spend it on?
I would spend it on Facebook ads.
Yes, I love that.
I would. And I'm not just saying that because it's your area of expertise, but one of the things that I want to do to be able to reach more people and grow is to grow my email list. And to do that, I think targeting them through Facebook ads is a really smart thing to do.
Well, I can only agree with you on that one.
I wasn't expecting you to put up an argument against it.
No, totally not. I love that that's where you want to be putting your marketing budget. So that's really cool. Thank you so much. Well, that is the end of this week's show. If you have any questions about smarter strategic content, head to sandralmuller.com and I'll put all of this in the show notes and all the super handy tools that Sandra has mentioned. That you'll find all of them in the show notes as well. A really big thanks to you, Sandra.
You're welcome.
Totally loved talking about this. And a big, big thanks to you for listening. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you heard the podcast. Your review will help others find the show and learn more about the amazing world of online marketing. Oh, and don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode at newschoolofmarketing.com, where you can learn more about Sandra, check out the useful links, and download free resources and leave a comment about the show.